It's our good friend Matthew Mestayer. Matthew, car and truck accidents, auto is just something we all have in common now. You can't avoid them.
Absolutely, Kenny. You know, we probably get 4 or 5 calls a week on car and truck wrecks, and it's just part of life. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate part of life, and there's a lot of misery on the roadway. And it'll be interesting, in our lifetime, if there's autonomous cars and stuff, if that happens, and how that kind of changes things.
Self-driving car.
But until that arrives, we are stuck with driving ourselves, and while we're driving ourselves, mistakes happen, and
that's right.
And we see, unfortunately, a lot of misery metered out when vehicles and wrecks happen, and and then 10 times, and then
the lawsuits.
Absolutely, the lawsuits, and and then sometimes impaired drivers. It was in the paper this week about impaired drivers hurting people, and it always seems that the impaired driver never gets hurt, and they always cause maximum havoc to everybody else, and they walk away. But anyway, so we deal car and truck wrecks all the time, and it gets more and more complicated with your policy. Your policy of insurance versus the other car's policy of insurance, and questions like, do I call the police? Do I make an accident report? What do I do? So there's a lot to it.
All of that is on
tonight.
All of that is on the table.
Yeah, it's open.
Plus, anything else you want to go on, if we didn't touch on automobile accident.
That's right.
You brought in a new panelist for us tonight. Really, maybe a nice addition to the
family.
Crew, to the fam.
The LawCall family, the Reeves and Mestayer family. I tell you, I'm very honored tonight to introduce Leilani Tynes. She's a lawyer that has recently joined our firm. I can tell you, I've been trying to get Leilani to come work with us for a number of years, and I've eventually worn her down. And so she's works with us, and we're so happy to have her. She's really a trial specialist, criminal trials, civil trials. She's done it all and spectacular, so happy to have her.
Leilani, that's how they got me on the show. I mean, it was just one phone call after another. It was the first phone call.
Not really,
First phone call.
It wasn't even a phone call.
No, it really wasn't. It was somebody else.
Hey, you
Leilani,
doing the TV work?
Welcome to the show. Really glad to have you on tonight, and a little bit past your bedtime. And one of those things, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we were talking about before the show, Matt and Jim have a solid practice, but you're going to be going into kind of the criminal side of it. Talk to us a little bit about your background and how that pertains to tonight's show.
That's right. I have a background as a prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor in North Mississippi, and most recently the Jackson County District Attorney's Office. So we hope to expand a little bit on that. And of course, I'll be doing personal injury as well.
Very good, very good. And when it comes to car and truck accidents, we hear it all the time. There is so many times a criminal element, especially with an impaired driver, or if you leave the scene. Gosh, it seems like we've had a lot of hit and runs recently, and it just is. So anyway, you are welcome to be on the show anytime for this topic.
A breath of fresh air.
A breath of fresh air.
Amen.
Speaking of, one of us needs to brush our teeth. It's me. Yeah, it's me. I had a lot of coffee tonight. All right. Of course, our big rule here on LawCall, we want to hear your side of the story, but please no proper names. If you are calling in tonight, we want to say, oh yeah, well, it was this person involved in the accident. We don't need any last names. We don't need any company names or anything like that. But y'all all know the rules on that one. All right, let's get to our email question of the night. I missed it 2 weeks ago, and everybody was all over me. How did you miss the email question? I got it this week.
You missed it a lot.
I missed it a lot. We're on this one. This one's from Kim, and Kim's got a good little question here. I was in a wreck in April. My neck was a little sore, and I figured it would get better. It got worse. I've been to the doctor twice, but I didn't file a medical claim. Is it too late now? Matthew, interesting question. Is it too late? April.
It's not too late, Kenny, but, it's a constant theme we talk about on the show, in the law biz. Those that sleep on their rights generally don't, it doesn't advance their case. It doesn't do well for them. So it's not too late, but they need to kind of get on the stick, so to speak. And I tell you, Kenny, that's one of the challenges with any injury case, really, but one of the big challenges is what's going to happen in the future. For example, is how do you, kind of deal with today, value, in a case today when someone has like a neck injury or back injury, and are they going to need surgery 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? And so you do the best you can. You give them a lot of medical tests, MRIs, CAT scans, things like that. But that's one of the challenges of what you do. But as I say, yes, definitely need to follow up with that as soon as you can.
And I guess a neck injury is one of those that can just
tricky,
just kind of keep coming around on that one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Leilani, your thoughts on that one? Did Matt get everything? Did he leave you any meat on the bone for that?
Well, I think so, and certainly the point is, if you get get into an accident, you really need to protect your rights immediately. Yeah. And a lot of times there are injuries, you don't realize it right away, and then it's, a week or two later, you're really in trouble. So.
And another thing, too, Kenny, what's important of that is causation. When you go to your medical providers, giving them a good history, when this started and things like that, because I can promise you those records will be scrutinized heavily by the other side, by the insurance carrier on the other side. They'll look at that, and if something's not in there, they'll assume it didn't happen. And so you've got to be a pretty good historian when you talk to your medical providers about, when it happened, why did it happen, as a result of what, and because that becomes sometimes critically important.
Well, she did say she went to the doctor twice, so that's a step in the right direction.
Hopefully, though, she was very clear on
when
this started and why it started.
Gotcha. Anyway, great email question. Thank you so much for your patience. What can we help you with tonight?
Yes, I wanted to find out about if you were to be a legal guardian of a child that's awarded a certain amount for an accident, how long does it take for that child to get compensated?
Good question, Tracy. That's
a great question.
It is.
Yeah, let me jump on that right away.
That one.
Yeah, Tracy, that's a fantastic question. When there's any kind of accident, doesn't have to be a car and truck, but an accident involving a child, when the case is settled, if it's settled, you have to go to Chancery Court and get that approved, all right? Chancellor has to kind of review everything and make sure that the child's interests are taken care of. That's one thing. Second thing the Chancellor does, they put the money in a guardianship account, okay? So the parents aren't supposed to have access to it without court approval. The child obviously isn't supposed to have access. What they do is they protect the child, and that's a really good process. Okay, it really is, and for obvious reasons, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of kids get hurt, and money comes in, and they're too young to know what's going on, and sometimes the parents get in financial trouble. So what it's supposed to be is the money goes into an account, and the parents don't have access to it unless they go to court for permission to get any money out of it. And so really that's really where the court system does a fantastic job, I have to tell you, and very supportive of that.
So Matt, is it one of these things? Let's say you were the legal guardian and there was some expenses that come up with, just rearing a child and everything. Can they not touch the money at all, or could they go to the Chancery Court judge and say, hey, look, we got
that's
basketball fees?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of chancellors say no. They basically tell you that, you can't look to that money to defer expenses you would normally have in raising the child.
Okay.
You can't use that little bucket of cash to come in and pay for basketball fees or school shoes because that's on you, Mom and Dad, regardless of the personal injury money. Okay. They want that money protected. It's not supposed to say, well, a supplement to Mom and Dad's, kind of fund to raise the child. It's not how it works. And I support that. I think that's a good idea, and that's the way to do it.
Leilani, does the child in this, when do they, is it 18, 21, or is it up to the judge's discretion when they can kind of touch it?
Typically, it's going to be when they're 18.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right.
And that's it?
Yeah.
You're an adult, you get to it.
But sometimes the courts will have hearings, and you have to do yearly accountings as well.
Okay.
So yearly accountings with the court, you've got to go in there and account for the money, make sure none of it's kind of being taken out. When it works, it's a fantastic system. Now sometimes, of course, it doesn't always work. Things happen, but I tell you, it makes a lot of sense and very good program.
All right, Tracy, thank you for the call tonight. We hadn't gotten that one before. This does kind of get me thinking about the uninsured motorist just a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
Because that wasn't exactly what Milton was talking about, but it is really important, isn't it, that uninsured coverage?
Kenny, I know, my gosh, I'm going to say it until I'm no longer doing this show, I tell you, as long as I possibly can, and that is, it's some of the most important coverage anybody can get, and it's some of the least understood.
Yeah.
In an auto policy, there's several different types and parts of the policy. There's the amount, the coverage that that's available if you cause a wreck. Well, uninsured coverage is the money that it's available to you if someone else injures you and has either no insurance or low insurance.
Right,
okay, so it's protecting yourself, because if you're a good driver and someone hits you with no insurance or low insurance, your own insurance company can look to pay for your damages, and it's some of the cheapest coverage. And I tell you, it happens time and time again. People just are not aware of it. They don't understand it, and it's just really some of the best coverage you can possibly get, and it's very cheap. And I just really encourage everybody, look at your policy. Look at your policy.
Leilani, is your policy
Look at your policy.
Our policy is good.
Look at your policy.
But it's surprising how many people come in to see you and really think that they have great coverage, and then when you look at it, they don't. So if you don't know how much you have, you really need to kind of double check your policy and make sure you're covered for
And full disclaimer, we're not working for an insurance company.
It's coming up on the end of this year will be a 10-year anniversary of a motor vehicle accident I was in. I was on my motorcycle. I was hit head-on by a car on the highway. They were in the wrong lane. They had a $25,000 law or reimbursement on their insurance. I did have underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage, which helped out a bit. But the accident resulted in me having a broken neck and being paralyzed basically from the chest down. Of course, I don't have any of that left. It's just simply the medical stuff took care of that. Do I have any recourse of action to file a claim against the individual, or what, is there anything else that I can do at this point, or is it pretty much moot?
Bob, first of all, thank you for the call. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you, but I think I know it.
Yeah, Bob, well, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but the answer is probably not, is the answer. In general, in Mississippi, the statute of limitations is 3 years. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, when the accident involves a state or state entity, it's as short as a year. Right. And there's some what's called saving statute that sometimes move it beyond the 3-year realm for children, for example, and there's also like a discovery rule. But in this particular case, I assume you're an adult, and you certainly say so. It's very doubtful, Kenny. Very doubtful. It's probably that accident's probably going to fall under the standard 3-year catch-all statute of limitations. So that's some time ago, unfortunately.
Now let me ask: if Bob had filed any type of litigation or civil stuff back at that time being, and maybe hasn't worked on it, could that be possible that it moves forward?
Could be. Could be. But again, that goes back to that you really need to seek legal advice early on to protect your rights, so you're not in this sort of situation.
One of those situations.
Kenny, and we see it all the time, and I know we talk about it, but, like, for example, in these bad accidents where people are, maimed, I promise you, Bob had his hands full, probably fighting for his life, dealing with the aftermath of that, and unfortunately we see it, and especially in these trucking accidents, people are hurt and maimed, unfortunately sometimes killed, and they're trying to put their lives back together, whereas trucking company, they're in full, they're in litigation mode. 5 minutes after the accident, they got lawyers in the scene, accident reconstructionists, taking photographs, taking statements, and you're trying to, figure out.
That's right, like for Bob, he's trying to figure out where
and it takes a long time, and, I don't know what kind of support he had, and, it takes a long time. Anyway, all right, well, I hear the music, so
it's time to go. Time to roll. Bob, thank you so much for the call tonight from Biloxi. We really do appreciate it. God love you, man. We'll be thinking about you. All right, that is our show for tonight. We'll be back next week at 10:30 live on the air. We're going to be talking about offshore injuries and all those things that go along with the Jones Act. But until then, good night.